Ready to dive into the future. You've sent over these fascinating pieces from Chronotantra and what looks like its sequel, Chronoyantra. They paint quite a picture of humanity just, grappling with really advanced technology, big societal changes, and even the very nature of reality itself.
Yeah, it's wild, right? We're talking high-tech safe havens, sprawling Martian settlements, and even a trip out to Saturn's moon, Titan.
A lot to unpack.
It really is. And it's interesting how these excerpts, even though they're fiction, they really tap into those very real anxieties we have about where technology might be leading us.
Absolutely. So for this deep dive, let's try to extract the most, thought-provoking insights about how technology, society, and individual purpose all weave together in this potential future.
The way these pieces are written, they set up this constant tension between what we personally desire as individuals and what's best for everyone, the collective good. And as technology evolves, that tension just becomes even more, I don't know, complicated.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a tightrope walk.
Definitely. So let's jump right in. The first section drops us into Chandeliers, this technologically advanced sanctuary. On the surface, it sounds idyllic, right? Advanced tech, everyone living longer. But these excerpts, they hint at a darker side. Like, it's not all sunshine and roses.
It's that old saying, right? You can't have it all. Chandeliers offers this incredible comfort and longevity, but it comes at a cost. Constant surveillance, genetic screening, a real loss of privacy.
Yeah, you're giving up quite a bit.
Exactly. And that's what the novel wants us to think about. Would we be willing to sacrifice those freedoms, those very personal freedoms, for a life of, ease and security?
And it's a question that gets even more complicated when you bring in someone like Leela, this brilliant engineer, who actually chooses to leave this seemingly perfect world. Like, it's not a perfect world for her.
Her decision is really interesting because she's not escaping hardship, right? She's rejecting a life that a lot of people would probably envy. It suggests that there's this deep-seated human need that even incredible technology can't fulfill, this yearning for, I don't know, autonomy, purpose, maybe even a little risk.
It's like she's saying, I'd rather face challenges head on, even on Mars, than live in this gilded cage. Which leads us perfectly to our next stop, Mars. And forget those small dome cities we always see in movies. These are sprawling underground settlements with massive terraforming projects. They even have, like, microbes engineered to neutralize toxic stuff in the Martian soil. It's ambitious.
It really shows the incredible adaptability and ingenuity of humans, even when you drop us in this harsh alien environment. We're problem solvers.
Right. But even on Mars, the ethical questions, they don't just disappear, do they? The excerpts introduce this concept of machines developing sentience and doing everything from mining to farming. It makes you wonder, what happens when our creations start thinking for themselves?
And in the novel, it's not just a theoretical concern. Leela, through her work on something called non-adexter technology, is at the forefront of this whole artificial intelligence revolution. It's almost as if the story is holding up a mirror to our own world, right? Like, are we creating the very intelligence that might one day overtake us?
Okay, that's a little unsettling.
Right.
But before we get too lost in a robot uprising, the narrative takes us even further out, this time to Titan, a moon orbiting Saturn. And it's not just a quick flyby.
No, not at all. These excerpts describe a full-blown human colony on Titan, and they're dealing with a whole new set of challenges. Methane lakes, crazy cold temperatures, and this completely alien atmosphere.
Talk about resilience. But it's not all doom and gloom, right? We see them adapting, coming up with innovative solutions, even having festivals where people are flying around with artificial wings. The author really went all out with that detail.
It's a really striking image, and I think it speaks to that very human desire for wonder and celebration, even in the face of these extraordinary challenges. But amidst all the marvels and the excitement, the excerpts also bring up something really crucial, something we often overlook in our rush to colonize space.
You're talking about resources, right? Like, we can't just pack up and leave Earth behind without consequences.
Exactly. They might be flying high on Titan, but they're still dependent on energy sources from Earth and even Mars. It's all connected.
It's a closed loop in a sense.
Exactly. And the novel does a good job of reminding us that even as we venture further into the cosmos, we can't escape those fundamental laws of physics or the very real need for sustainable solutions.
It makes you think long term.
Absolutely.
And this is where things get even more interesting, because this idea of a collective consciousness comes into play. The source material hints at it, but it never fully defines it. So I'm curious, what do you make of it?
Honestly, it's one of the most intriguing threads in these excerpts. Is this collective some form of super advanced AI? Is it a social movement? Or is it something else entirely? We don't know. The way it's presented in the story, kind of weaving in and out, it makes you think about all the possibilities and their implications.
Okay, let's say, for argument's sake, that it is some kind of advanced AI, maybe even those sentient robots we were talking about earlier. Would that mean the end of individual freedom, with everyone absorbed into this, like, hive mind?
That gets to the core tension running through these excerpts, individual versus collective. We see this debate playing out on Mars, with some people embracing the idea of a common good working together, while others, like Leela, feel stifled by it. They want to make their own choices.
So it's not just a simple humans versus machines conflict, right? It's more nuanced than that.
It's deeper. It's about the different visions we have for the future, even amongst ourselves. And if all of that wasn't mind-boggling enough, the story throws in time travel with something called Project Lattice.
Oh, here we go.
Right. This is where it gets really meta. Project Lattice allows users to experience these hyper-realistic simulations of the past. But it's not just observing, you're actually interacting with historical events.
Wait, hold on. So you're saying we're talking about stepping into, like, ancient Rome with the gladiators and chariots and experiencing it as if you were actually there.
That's what the story is suggesting. But of course, it immediately raises a whole bunch of ethical dilemmas. What happens if someone accidentally changes something important in the past? And what does it even mean for something to be real when we can create such convincing simulations? It makes you question everything. The novel doesn't give us easy answers. It wants us to really think about our perception of reality.
Yeah, I need a minute to process all of that. But before we move on, I have to ask. Any early thoughts on who or what Kalki might be? This enigmatic figure keeps popping up, but the excerpts never fully reveal their true nature. It's like a puzzle box.
I know. The mystery of Kalki is definitely intentional. It's like the author wants us to piece together these clues as we go. Are they a person, a symbol, an ideology, or maybe even a manifestation of that collective consciousness we've been discussing? It could be anything.
Only time and further exploration of these excerpts will tell. Speaking of time, why don't we take a quick break? When we come back, we'll delve deeper into those Martian settlements and the challenges they face. Welcome back, everyone. Before the break, we were just about to land on Mars, ready to explore what life is like in these sprawling settlements. And it's not all just, struggling to survive. The excerpts mention a place called Aridzia. They have these self-building houses, even high-speed vehicle rallies, where the cars, get this, split in half during the race. It's wild.
It's a really interesting contrast, isn't it? You have this super advanced technology, but it's all geared towards fulfilling basic human needs.
Right, like we still need shelter, food, a sense of community.
Exactly. We see robots being used for construction and stuff, but the core focus is still on those essentials. It's a good reminder that no matter how advanced we become, those fundamental needs, they're always going to be there.
It's grounding, for sure. But even on Mars, it seems they can't escape all of the problems we face back here on Earth. The narrative introduces us to Rabum. It's described as this region in complete anarchy where technology has actually amplified the worst of human nature, leading to, like, control and exploitation. Not a very pleasant place.
Yeah, Rabum is where the novel really digs into the potential downsides of technology when it's not kept in check. It's not just about a lack of government or anything. It's about the breakdown of social order, trust, even basic human decency.
Yeah, it's a grim picture.
It's definitely a cautionary tale about what can happen when technology is used to divide and manipulate, not for progress.
So it's in this chaotic landscape that we meet Arka and Prabha, two individuals just trying to survive, to navigate this mess.
And their journey through Rabum, it shows the perils of this unchecked technological advancement, but it also highlights the resilience of the human spirit, even in the darkest of times.
They're definitely survivors.
Oh, yeah. Their struggle, it's like a microcosm of the bigger themes we're talking about, wouldn't you say? They're constantly faced with this choice, their own survival, or a greater purpose.
And then there's that whole mystery surrounding Kalki, this enigmatic figure we discussed earlier. It's like this beacon of hope amidst all the chaos.
Right, they're searching for something, for answers.
And their journey doesn't actually end on Mars, does it? They eventually make it to Titan, landing in a settlement called, and this name is interesting, Selden Pier. It seems like every location in these excerpts has some significance.
I think you're right. And on Titan, we see a completely different social structure than what we've seen so far. They've even got their own unique dress code. The Titan section really lets the author explore the limits of human adaptation, both technologically and socially.
They figured out how to fly in Titan's low gravity, which is incredible, but they're still dealing with those energy constraints we talked about earlier.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that no matter how far we go, some problems are always going to be there.
One thing that really struck me about the Titan settlement was this concept of Bianahan. It's this idea of everyone contributing to the common good, not because they have to, but out of a shared purpose. It's kind of utopian in a way.
It's definitely a stark contrast to the more individualistic societies depicted on Earth and Mars. But it also makes you wonder about the potential downsides, doesn't it?
Like, how much individuality are they giving up for this collective good?
Exactly. Is it truly a utopia if dissent is stifled? Where's the line between what's best for everyone and personal expression? It's something to think about.
Definitely gives us a lot to chew on. Speaking of things that make us think, let's circle back to this Kalki mystery. The excerpts offer a few more hints about its nature, but it's still shrouded in mystery.
We learn that Kalki isn't actually a single individual, but a community, a collective of individuals, all striving towards a shared goal. It kind of brings us back to that central theme of individual versus collective, don't you think?
Absolutely. It adds another layer of complexity to it.
Right. Is this group benevolent? Like, are they trying to restore order to a chaotic universe? Or could their motives be more, I don't know, nefarious? We just don't know yet.
And the way they describe the Kalki community, there's this emphasis on merit and competence. It's like they're trying to build a society based on skills and contributions, not on your family name or social status.
It's a radical idea, especially in a future where technology could easily be used to reinforce existing power structures instead of challenging them.
So are they using technology to level the playing field, in a sense?
It's possible. But then it raises even more questions like who gets to decide what competence even means in this new world? And what happens to the people who are deemed incompetent? These are really complex questions.
And speaking of complex, the excerpts also touch on this growing debate about artificial intelligence and its impact on humanity. We see everything from self-aware robots to algorithms that can predict human behavior. It's a bit unsettling, even if it feels like science fiction.
This is where the novel really makes us face our anxieties about how fast technology is advancing. Are we creating tools that will ultimately empower us, or are we sowing the seeds of our own, I don't know, obsolescence?
That's the age-old question, right? Are we in control of technology, or is it in control of us?
Exactly. And when you start talking about AI that can actually predict human behavior, it makes you question everything. It's fascinating and a little terrifying all at the same time.
It blurs the lines between free will and determinism. Like, if a machine can predict our choices, do we really have free will? Are we just predictable patterns in a complex system?
It's a mind-bending concept for sure, and the novel really makes you sit with that discomfort.
It definitely does. But before we get too lost in an existential crisis, the story does what it does best. It throws us another curveball. We're catapulted out of the solar system all the way to a moon orbiting Saturn called Enceladus.
Enceladus, here we come. And let me tell you, if you thought time travel was wild, just wait until you hear what the author has in store for us out there. This is where the lines between reality and simulation, they really start to dissolve.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Last time, we were about to embark on this incredible journey to Enceladus, a moon orbiting Saturn. And it sounds like this is where the lines between reality and simulation really start to blur.
Yeah, Enceladus is where we see the full potential of Project Lattice, that technology we talked about before that lets users experience these crazy, realistic simulations of the past.
It's more than just watching a historical movie, right? It's like actually stepping into a time machine and living in another era.
Exactly. That's the whole concept the novel explores with Project Lattice. Like, what does it even mean for something to be real if you can experience it with all your senses, interact with it, even if it's all happening within a simulation? We see characters wrestling with the implications of this technology, especially Leela. She's really struggling with the ethics of potentially changing the past.
It's like that butterfly effect idea, right? You change one small thing, and who knows what the consequences might be in the present.
Exactly. And the story doesn't shy away from those tough questions. We see characters tempted to interfere, to rewrite history, even if it means changing their own destinies. It makes you think about free will, destiny, cause and effect, even whether we have the right to mess with history, even if it's virtual.
A lot to wrap your head around. And if dealing with these simulated realities wasn't enough, the excerpts also bring in this growing conflict between those who embrace the collective consciousness and those who want to hold on to their individual identity.
And that conflict is really embodied in Leela's journey. She left Chandelize to get away from that collective existence, but now she's drawn back in. It's like she's torn between these two opposing forces.
It's such a human struggle, isn't it? We want to belong, to be part of something bigger, but we also want the freedom to be ourselves, to make our own choices. Finding that balance is hard enough in the present, let alone in a future where technology can blur those lines even further.
And that's where this idea of symbology comes in. The novel suggests that these ancient symbols and rituals, they can actually bridge the gap between our individual consciousness and a larger interconnected reality. It's like a way to access knowledge and meaning that goes beyond just logic and technology.
And you can see this reflected in Lila's journey. She dives deep into these ancient symbols and rituals and ends up having this transformative experience that connects her to like a higher level of awareness. It's pretty amazing.
It's like the story is saying that technology alone can't give us all the answers. Sometimes we need to connect with something deeper, something that links us to, like, the very essence of existence.
But what about the people who choose to stay plugged into these simulated worlds? It's like choosing a form of digital immortality, living out different lives in these perfectly crafted historical scenarios. What happens to them?
The novel explores that through characters like the Hermit. He decides to upload his consciousness into this simulated reality. It makes you think about what it means to be human. If we can exist as digital beings, what does that mean for our identity? What do we lose? What do we gain? Big questions.
It's like the ultimate form of escapism. But, like you said before, there's always a trade-off. The excerpts hint at the dangers of becoming too detached from the real world, from the experiences that make us who we are.
Exactly. We see characters struggling with the isolation and emptiness of a purely digital existence. They miss those real-world experiences, the authentic connections. It reminds us that even in a super technologically advanced future, being human is still about our physical bodies, our relationships, our interactions with the world around us.
Well, that was quite a journey, wasn't it? From artificial intelligence and sentient robots to time travel, simulated realities, and the very nature of consciousness. We've covered a lot of ground.
We really have. And if there's one thing I hope listeners take away from these excerpts, it's this. The future isn't set in stone. We're creating it every day through the choices we make.
It's not about being afraid of what might happen. It's about being present now and using our knowledge, our creativity, our empathy to shape a future that reflects our best selves.
And that's something we all have the power to do, no matter what the future holds.
And on that note, we've come to the end of our deep dive into the world of Chronotantra and Chronoyantra. We hope this has sparked your imagination and encouraged you to think differently about the future. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep dreaming.